Evening. This is the March 27th meeting of the San Francisco County Transportation Authority Community Advisory Committee, or CAC. I'm Kat Siegel, chair of the CAC. Before I give the chair's report, I'd like to ask Maria Lombardo, who is doubling as our clerk this evening, to do a roll call to ensure we have quorum. And then Daniela Reblay, our operator for tonight, will read an announcement about public comment.
Thank you, Chair Siegel. And when I call your name, please say aye or present. Member Bars?
Bars present.
Bars present. Member Chen?
Chen present.
Chen present. Member Daniels? Daniels absent. Member Davidson? Davidson absent. Member Ford?
Ford present.
Ford present. Member Kim?
Kim present.
Kim present. Member Levine?
Levine present. Oop, you turned it off. Present.
Member Levine present. Member Margarita? Present. Member Margarita present. Member Milford Rosales?
Wilford Rosales present.
Milford Rosales present. Member Ortega?
Member Ortega present.
Ortega present. Member Siegel?
Siegel
Sorry, Chair
present.
Siegel? Chair Siegel, we have quorum.
Great, and then, public comment announcement. Thank you.
Public comment will be available for each item on this agenda via telephone by calling one of the numbers listed on the front of the agenda or joining the meeting through the Zoom link. Once you join, you will be able to listen to the meeting as a participant. To make public comment on an item, when the item is called, members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9. Do not press *9 again, or you will be removed from the queue. When you are asked to unmute yourself, press *6 or the unmute button to unmute yourself. The live operator will advise that you will be allowed 2 minutes to speak. When your 2 minutes are up, we will move on to the next caller. Best practices are to speak slowly, clearly, and turn down the volume of any televisions or radios around you. Thank you. That concludes my announcement.
Thank you. That puts us on item 2, which is the chair's report. CAC members have received a link to the executive director's report, which was presented at yesterday's board meeting. It is available on the agency's website at www.sfcta.org. Last month, I shared that the Portal or Downtown Rail Extension, one of the signature projects in the Prop L expenditure plan, had received a medium-high rating under requirements of the Federal Transit Administration's Capital Investment Grant Program. Earlier this month, there was more good news with the Biden administration's budget proposal recommending the Portal for $500 million. This is a welcomed vote of confidence in the project as it continues to advance through the federal grant process, seeking a multi-billion-dollar grant. The Transportation Authority received another piece of good news. The agency will receive a $2 million grant award from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods program for the Geary-Fillmore Underpass Community Planning Study. The study will develop transportation and land use concept designs to better connect the Japantown and Fillmore Western Addition neighborhoods that were divided when the underpass was constructed in the 1960s. The study will engage neighborhoods through a community-led outreach process to rethink the urban renewal era Geary Expressway and reimagine adjacent land uses by establishing a community council with representatives of the Black, Japanese, and Jewish communities that were displaced when the underpass was constructed, as well as with newer community members. Staff anticipates bringing a Prop L request for matching funds to the CAC this summer and will launch the study in the same time frame. In the meantime, staff is setting up a community council to guide the project and support community engagement efforts. Organizations in the study area who are interested in participating in this effort are encouraged to reach out to the project team at Geary-Fillmore at sfcta.org. Welcome Benicia Margarita, our newest CAC member representing District 9. Benicia, would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself to the CAC?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Venecia Margarita. I'm really excited to be here. This is my first meeting. I wasn't able to attend last month because I already had a different meeting, but I'm looking forward to learn and yeah, thank you to Supervisor Hillary Roning for appointing me on this board. And I'm excited to learn. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Let's see. Note on meeting management, CAC members, if you would like to speak, you can indicate so by standing your name card on its end, so it is pointing up. When I call on you to speak, press the red star sticker on the base of the microphone to turn it on. A red light below the mouthpiece indicates that the microphone is on. Kindly turn off the microphone when done speaking by pressing the red star again. Be sure to speak directly into the microphone so folks in the back of the room can hear you. Please limit your questions to a max of 2 questions per agenda item. CAC members and folks in the hearing room, please turn off or silence all electronic devices and computer notifications during the meeting. That's it for announcements. Are there any questions or comments from CAC members on the chair's report? Not seeing any. Is there anyone in the hearing room wishing to give public comment on the chair's report? Operator, is there any remote public comment on the chair's report?
There is no remote public comment.
Great. That puts us on item 3, which is approve the minutes of the February 28th, 2024 meeting. This is an action item. Do any CAC members have any questions or comments on the minutes? Not seeing any. Is there anyone in the hearing room wishing to give public comment on item 3? Not seeing any. Operator, is there any remote public comment?
There is no remote public comment.
Great. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
Could I have a roll call vote?
Right, just. Chair Siegel, just so people can hear, I'm going to say that motion was by member Ortega, second by member Kim. And the motion to approve the minutes, member Bars. Bars, aye. Bars, aye. Member Chen.
Chen, I.
Chen, aye. Member Daniels, Daniels absent. Member Davidson. Davidson, aye. Davidson, aye. Member Ford.
Ford, I.
Ford, aye. Member Kim.
Kim, aye.
Kim, aye. Member Levine.
Levine, aye.
Member Margarita.
Member Margarita, aye.
Margarita, aye. Member Milford Rosales.
Milford Rosales, aye.
Milford Rosales, aye. Member Ortega.
Ortega, I.
Ortega, aye. Chair Siegel.
Siegel, aye.
Siegel, aye. The item passes.
Great. That puts us on item 4, which is to adopt a motion of support to allocate $1.6 million in Prop L funds with conditions and allocate $1.2 million in Prop AA funds for 2 requests. This is an action item. And Amelia Wally, program analyst, is here to present this item.
Great.
Good evening, CAC members. My name is Amelia Wally, Program Analyst here at the Transportation Authority, and tonight I'm here to present 2 requests for allocation of funds, one from Prop L and one from Prop AA. The first is a Prop L request from Public Works of $1.6 million for their various locations pavement renovation number 62 project. The funds requested will fund the pavement renovation of 34 blocks in districts 3, 5, and 6, along with construction and retrofit of approximately 10 curb ramps and new sidewalk construction. Public Works inspects each of the city's blocks and assigns a pavement condition index score or PCI score every 2 years. And the PCI score ranges from a low of 0 to a high of 100. These scores assist Public Works with implementing the pavement management strategy of aiming to preserve streets by applying the right treatment to the right street at the right time. Streets are selected based on the PCI score, along with the presence of transit and bicycle routes, street clearance, and geographic equity. The average PCI score for the locations in this project is in the mid-50s out of 100. The full list of locations candidates for this project can be found in your item materials, and the project is expected to be open for use by March 2026. The second request tonight is a Prop AA request, Prop AA being our $10 annual vehicle registration fee. This request is also from Public Works for $1.2 million to improve lighting along Oakdale Avenue between 3rd and Phelps Streets. The requested funds will replace fixtures and arms on 16 existing streetlights and will install 9 new roadway scale streetlights along with electrical work related to those lights. Improving lighting along Oakdale Avenue was the highest community priority in the Bayview Community-Based Transportation Plan, which was adopted in 2020. This project will make walking more inviting and safe along this important thoroughfare in the Bayview. In 2022, the TA programmed $1.65 million for the construction phase of this project to install 50 new lights. But through the design phase, Public Works, which Prop AA also did fund the design phase of this, Public Works conducted photometric analyses and found it was actually able to retain the existing light poles with upgraded fixtures on those 16 and to add just 9 street lights to reduce the spacing and bring the lighting level up. So based on that analysis, Public Works concluded that additional lighting beyond the current proposed scope would cause areas to be overlit. So all that said, Public Works final design will cost less than the original concept while accomplishing the original intent of improving pedestrian lighting as well as street light, bringing lighting up to streetlight standards and regulations. And Commissioner Walton's office is supportive of this approach. This project is expected to be open for use by June of 2026. And with that, I can take any questions. And we also have project managers from Public Works available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Do any CAC members have any questions or comments on item 4? Member Ford?
Hi, just a sort of curiosity question. The repaving segments I noticed in the map are all quite short. Is there something specific that causes only a small section of the roadway to deteriorate faster than adjacent segments?
Thank you for the question, Member Ford. I will defer that to, I think Edmund Lee is online and the project manager of that project.
Hi, good evening. Edmund Lee, project manager for the street resurfacing program in Public Works. If I heard correctly, was the question what causes street deterioration in like certain smaller areas or more localized areas sometimes, as opposed to say consistently, I guess, across a whole block? Is that what the question was?
Yeah, like the segments are quite like sort of one block isolated segments.
Right. Okay, yeah. So
so why just tiny segments one by one?
Right. So there's a number of different factors, I guess, but a lot of what causes localized deterioration is with utility work. Over time, sometimes most utilities are underground, and so when various utility companies, and they could go in, at any block, they can have a project that spans an entire corridor. It really depends, but once they dig into the ground and perform like a trench, these trenches they really do affect sort of the overall life of the street, which is why, every time we go out and pave, we try to coordinate as best as we can with our other city agencies, as well as the other private utility companies, so that, any work that needs to happen in the near future, or, relatively close to our project schedule, we try to coordinate to have that happen first, so that our paving comes at the very end. So to sort of maximize, the investment.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from, Member Ortega?
Hi, yes, I also just have more of a curiosity question regarding the street light improvement plan. I would just be curious to understand the years of the original installation of the light poles versus now. And I'm curious if some of the changes in the photometric plan and the reduced cost are because of new lighting technologies, just LEDs or other areas like that. And just sort of to like gauge an understanding and expectation for these types of projects going forward.
Thank you for the question, Member Ortega. I'm going to defer to Public Works, since I think they have the expertise on the lighting.
Hi, good evening. This is Carol Huang from San Francisco Public Works, Streetscape Program Project Manager. I don't have the engineers attending the meeting, but I'll try my best to address this question. For all the streetlights that we are implementing as part of the project, we are definitely using LEDs, and LEDs are more efficient, for sure. So, and that's the reason why that we can actually, one of the reasons that we can kind of bring down the cost. But at the same time, obviously from time to time, we cannot just arbitrarily select any type of street light or bulb that, fixture that we want to use for all projects. We have to kind of stick to SFPUC standard catalog. SFPUC continue to review new products and, update their catalog, from year to year. In terms of kind of overall how many lights will be needed, and in terms of spacing, those are based on standard codes. So I'll say, they relatively will stay kind of like the same in terms of like criteria and required spacing. But with the kind of like upgraded fixture or new fixture products, we are able to kind of replace some of the existing lights, that's what we're doing as part of this project, and hence we are able to save a significant amount of cost and budget that's needed for this project. But I also want to add that not all the locations and not all the existing poles may be able to, retain, and we can only replace, we can proceed with replacing the fixtures. Various factors include condition of the poles, age of the poles, and the foundation, whether they're compliant, and whether the existing fixture can really be upgraded. So those are the factors that will also need to be considered on future project.
Thank you.
Member Margarita?
Hi, Member Margarita here. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to comment and commend the project organizers for including 4,000 residents during the 2-year planning period, and including 5 community-based organizations. So I commend you for all that, because as I was reading, I was like, I hope they had community input, and you obviously did. So thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Not seeing any. Is there any public comment in the room on item 4?
Checking on public comment. There is no remote public comment.
Great. Can I have a motion and a second to approve this item? Moved by Member Bars. Seconded by Member Margarita. Can we take a roll call vote?
We can also, Chestico, if you'd like, you could try same house, same call.
Sure, without objection, can we take the same house, same call? Great, then the motion is approved.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. That puts us on item 5, which is to adopt a motion of support to award a construction contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, Thompson Builders Corporation, to approve a contract amendment with WMH Corporation in the amount of $750,000 and authorize the executive director to execute all of the related supporting and supplemental agreements for the Yerba Buena Island Hillcrest Road Improvement Project. And this is an action item. And Carl Holmes, Deputy Director for Capital Projects, is here to present this item.
Good evening, everyone. Carl Holmes, Deputy Director for Capital Projects. Here to present.
Oh, I can have the light on. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Carl Holmes, Deputy Director, Capital Projects, here to present and request CAC approval for awarding the Hillcrest Improvement Project for construction contracts, as well as contract amendment for our designer, WMH. Next slide. Most of you have seen this slide before. This is an overview of the work that we have on the Yerba Buena Island. So just to reorient or orient you, the top right of the slide is, if you go up and to the right, that is the Bay Bridge going towards Oakland, going eastbound. And then the bottom of the slide, you can see between the green and the orange, that's the bridge going downward or westward going into San Francisco. And then up to the left is Treasure Island. So we have two islands, one Treasure Island and then also Yerba Buena Island. We opened up the Southgate off-ramp, which is highlighted in yellow on the far right. That was in May of last year. And we started the West Side Bridges construction, which is the bottom left in the orange. So that project is well underway. And then what we're seeking approval today is Hillcrest, which is in the green between those two projects. Next slide. This is a zoomed in view of the Hillcrest work. What is shown in red is the proposed vehicular access. And then what's shown in green is the proposed class 2 bicycle lane. The vehicle access, as if you go from left to right, so on the bottom left of the slide and traverse to the right and then go up, you'll see that there's a choice that a vehicle can make. If they go left, they can continue to traverse around the island by going underneath the Bay Bridge. If they choose to go right, so this is in the upper right end of the exhibit, they could choose to go onto the Bay Bridge going towards Oakland. And then we have the connection for bicycle access in green, where bicyclists can make a similar choice. They could either continue on eastbound going towards Oakland on the bicycle access on the bridge, or they could also choose to go underneath the bridge and continue traversing around the island. Next slide. We came to you in September to present a proposed act of good stewardship, where we discussed the idea of basically installing a retaining wall one time. So what's shown on the upper right of this slide is what we call the previous baseline scope for Hillcrest. And you can see a retaining wall that's on the left of that upper exhibit. And what you may or may not be able to see is if you go to the left of that wall, there's a tiny slope that shows the hillside. And so what we presented to you in September was the idea of trying to add in additional work to be able to make way for the future multi-use path, which is a separate project, but we wanted to cut into the hillside one time, install a taller wall, but not have double work and inconvenience travelers, residents, and visitors while we have this section of roadway closed. And so we're happy to be able to say that we've been able to receive bids with that scope in mind. But ultimately for this project, we would end up with a Class 2 bike lane for this contract. Next slide. This is intended to show the challenge of the steepness of the topography. So you can see on the upper left the photo of the steep slopes. You can also see on the upper right the challenge of working over the Bay Bridge and making sure that we are protecting the area for current traffic loads. And then we also have to maintain a certain amount of restrictions of weight over the portal just to make sure that the area remains secure. Next slide. Of course, we want to thank all of our partners. Won't name them all, but you could see range from Caltrans all the way through to Public Works. I do want to highlight California Transportation Commission, as we just recently received approval for an allocation for additional funding, which was part of that adding that additional scope for the future Class 1 bicycle facility. And what we presented to you back in September was an estimated value of that additional work to be around $8 million. And so CTC approved an allocation for $2.6 million. So it's a portion of it. And then we have other sources of funds, Prop-K fund exchanges that Anna's team brought to you as well, and to the board for approval. So we have a plan which you'll see in an upcoming slide. Next slide. Now for the procurement, how we got to where we are today. So we had an engineer's estimate of $21.1 million. We advertised this bid in January, and we received bids on March 14th. We also incorporated what we're calling an aspirational goal for DBE and SBE. Why is it aspirational? Because this is a non-federally funded project, and so we didn't have a mechanism to require that participation, but we still, as good stewards, wanted to ask for that aspirational goal. But it's not a requirement for bid analysis and award, but still, by saying nothing, we would likely get nothing. So we still put the request in. Next slide. So we received 2 bids, and the low bidder is Thompson Builders in the amount of $22.1 million. Next slide. So if you compare the previous slides, you'll see that the low bid was higher than our engineer's estimate by about $1 million, just under 5%. And so we still were able to accommodate with our budget to be able to come to you tonight to request approval because of what we had in our additional construction allotment and how we estimated the value of our risks. And so we were able to refine our construction allotment with our contingency, and still we have a good comfort level to bring it to you and to our board with $4.5 million in that allotment. And it still meets our budget. Next slide. So this shows the funding on the first column. Those funds were provided by the Housing Community Development Department of the state via what's called an infill infrastructure grant, otherwise known as IIG. And so the original scope for Hillcrest was fully funded with that IIG grant. But again, by us wanting to cut deeper into the hillside and install the retaining wall once, that additional 8 million, you can see how if you look at the bottom row, we go from 30 million to just under 38 million. So we have a way to fund this contract. Next slide. In terms of the schedule, pending award tonight and pending board approval in April, we would like to award the contract next month and begin construction in May with the completion in spring of 2027. Next slide. So that was the construction contract. Now we get into the designer and requesting approval for an amendment of their contract to support us during construction with their design efforts. And what does that include? It includes responding to questions that the contractor will have, possibly any redesign of elements of the contract if we find unforeseen conditions or if there's any other changes that need to be made. And then also at the end of the construction, providing as-built record drawings for good record keeping sake. We're requesting approval to amend their contract in the amount of $750,000 and also extending the duration of their contract through December of 2027. They have been a great partner in designing this project, and they've also exceeded the DBE goals significantly. And so we're pleased to present this as well tonight. Next slide. So again, to summarize, the requested actions are to seek approval to award the construction contract to Thompson Builders in the amount of $22.1 million. Also to authorize the additional construction allotment of $4.5 million. Then to amend the WMH, the designer contract agreement in the amount of $750,000. And then also to authorize our executive director to execute other agreements and supplemental contracts to support the contract. So for example, agreements with maybe Public Works or MTA or SFCTA. Those are examples of those other agreements. And that concludes the request and the presentation. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Member Kim?
Good afternoon, thank you for presentation. I have a couple of questions. Normally, like this kind of big capital project, do you have any measure to prevent delayed or over budget when something happens? And also, second question is Thompson Builder, they got awarded, and is there their past record, in the city related construction, they finished their job on time or budget? Is those kind of things included in their criteria to screen?
So I'll take the second question first. I'm not aware of an audit by the city on Thompson Builders. So I don't know if you're asking because you're aware of something, if you're just
general question.
Yeah, I'm not aware of an audit on Thompson Builders. I can say in my former life, I have had contracts with them on board, and I can say that I've had at least 2 projects, and one, the project, both projects were completed successfully. One project, it had its challenges, like a lot of projects do. It certainly wasn't caused by the contractor, and it completed. It was a little bit late, but again, it wasn't due to the contractor. But the other contract, I can say they actually finished a year early. So, it still had its challenges, but it was a project that ended a year early. Normally I don't give that kind of insight because it's a low bid, procurement, and my experience with this contractor can't come into play, but you asked the question, so I offer that transparency. And then the first question, I believe you were asking about, is there anything in place to prevent delay or prevent problems?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I would say that's part of the construction allotment is for us to have, we have items that are listed for potential things that could go wrong. And while we hope to not have to tap into it, though, that's a mechanism for us to be able to have a budget to achieve some of those items. The other part is when we need to, pushing back on the contractor if we think it's issues caused by them or they have the ability or control to be able to resolve the issue on their own. But then also it goes back to another opportunity I had to present to all of you with regards to the partnership, the partnering effort that we will institute with this contractor, just as we are doing on the West Side Bridges. And we have all of the departments, city, county, San Francisco. So we have MTA, we have Public Works, we have PUC at the table, as well as Caltrans, so that when things do come up, we have a way to try to, if not solve, we can at least identify and have a game plan to solve issues quicker.
Yeah, thank you for your, thank you.
Member Bars?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Holmes. Could you mentioned it in your presentation and again, in your remarks just now, but could you explain the implications of a low bid procurement and what we could and couldn't evaluate the bids on because it was there was a low bid approach?
Sure. So with a low bid scenario, the bidders are, they're screened to make sure that they have the proper license, that they have the bonds, that they have the ability to do the work. It's part of the public contract code. So it's different from procuring professional services or procuring some of the alternative project delivery methods where you have a two-step process where you're qualifying and shortlisting companies. And that's usually based on a particular specialty type of work, or if it's a project that has a lot of complexity or it's a large size project. A lot of public works projects are procured with this low bid scenario. And it's the idea is as long as a company has its license in place, they don't have, they're not banned or debarred from the state in terms of safety or in terms of contracting practices, then we have to rely on their ability to perform the work, and then it's on us to properly manage and stay on top of them and others to make sure the work is achieved.
So, and that just means we couldn't have taken like reputation or Google reviews or anything like that into consideration. It was like, they can do the work, they have the license and bonding, ensure that, and then they were the lowest bidder, and thus they won the contract. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments from members? Member Margarita?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this question, but I'm just curious. Are you able to share what the highest bidder was? You don't have to say the name, but I'm just wondering if they were close or is it really far off? Is that something you're able to share with us?
Sure, yes, that's public information and it's on the slide. It's Golden State Bridge was the next bidder. And I believe there were 23.8 or 23.9. There we go again, 23.9 million. So just under 24.
Thank you.
Sure.
Member Ortega?
Hi, thank you again for the presentation. And I'm really happy to see that we were able to do consolidation work to help us not have to backtrack as we go forward. I'm just curious, as I read through your contingency, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm just wondering how comfortable you guys are feeling with that amount of contingency. I believe you had an 8% contingency, but overall the additional award is about an 18% on top of the bid. And so just curious, in comparison with other big projects that we've had, how that contingency looks.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. So we toiled through that because again, before coming to you tonight and preparing for the board, you know, I have to make sure that I could stand behind it, and but also I know that I don't have, I can't tell you all what will happen in the future. So there's significant effort in going through the list of items that make up that $4.5 million. And so it includes contingency. It also includes items that we think could very well happen, such as man-made buried objects that sometimes we find in city county San Francisco. So we've identified that as one of the items. There may be some utility work that needs to be rerouted. So I just given a couple of examples of things that we have listed with an estimated dollar value. And then on top of that, we have a contingency for things that may be higher than what we've estimated or we just haven't thought of. And so with that, I am comfortable in bringing this to you. And we also evaluated, you know, if we were to come to you to say we want to reject all bids, we can't say that we would get a lower bid scenario if we were to rebid. So if you go through that process, then we have to repackage and figure out what will we do differently. And we might be able to trim some of the scope away. I say might because we were going through different scenarios and it might be pushing it off to another contract. But then at the same time, with the market conditions, we might come back with higher bids. So all that being said, when we looked at that and a little bit more insight, Golden State Bridge, they are the second bidder. They are working on currently on West Side Bridges project. So they have insight as to, you know, some of the ground conditions, and you know, they put their best guess. But sometimes when you know more, you bid higher because you know more. But I don't know, Thompson Builders, from what I understand, has also worked on the island, not for us, but so they also have some experience working on the island. So all that being said, if you were to come to you with reject all bids, I couldn't tell you that the chances of us coming back with a lower bid scenario. So with that and going through every item on our list, we're comfortable.
Okay, yeah, I was more asking in terms of if there's been cases where that amount of contingency just hasn't been enough. And or like past projects, I get the reasoning for a contingency. I have done contract work like that before in my life, so I just wanted to make sure that it was like we feel comfortable with this 8% contingency based on past projects that we've done, given the fact that there could be plumbing on the side of the road that no one knew about. I fully accept there are going to be some unknown scenarios that happen, right?
Sure. So if I may clarify, because I had a similar question about when you say 8%, it sounds low. But the clarification I want to add is that it's actually more than 8%. It's just that some of the supplemental, we call it supplemental work that we've identified, like the man-made buried objects or some of the utility work that we may encounter. Instead of just saying we have a 15% contingency, we did not list all these items. So we essentially have two lists, and when you have one that's supplemental work and one that is contingency. And that contingency is 8%. But when you put it together, it's higher than 8%.
Thank you. Great. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Seeing none, is there any public comment in the room on this item? Looks like there is.
Yes, Edward Mason, thank you very much for a comprehensive presentation. Of the 17 firms that were contacted, how many were prime contractors? And the reason I ask it is because is that representative of the industrial base for major construction companies in the Bay Area or the region? And, you know, I'm just concerned in general with the major construction companies, because there's over 12,000 people a day that are turning 65 and retiring, and there's been a declining birth rate for almost the last 20 years to where we're not replacing the population. So I'm just wondering, in the future, are we going to have enough people to do these types of jobs? And are there more major contractors capable of doing this work in the future in the region? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I'm just kind of looking forward, big picture, and then why we only got 2 quotes as opposed to having a potential for more. And I'm trying to figure out how come only 2 companies bid on it, or with the others busily working on other projects where, you know, they couldn't meet the timeline of finishing the existing work and then coming to bid on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any remote public comment on this item?
Brittany, can you take down the okay, Roland, can you please, Roland, your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Works much better with the unmute. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for this great presentation. The only question I have is on slide 10, which shows that the construction administration at $7.3 million is approximately double the cost of the prelim engineering plans. And that's a little bit of a concern. And I'm wondering to the chair whether Mr. Holmes could speak to this, specifically whether we're talking about staff time or on-call consultants. And one last comment, a little bit of trivia, that William Hadaya, who is the chief executive of WMH Corporation, used to be the chair of the VTA CAC. Thank you.
Is there any additional remote public comment?
Checking, there was no additional comments from the public comment.
Great. Could I get a motion and a second on this item? Member Milford Rosales?
Motion to approve.
And seconded by Member Levine. We could take this same house, same call without objection. Seeing none, great, then the motion is approved. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Item 6.
That puts us on item 6, which is to adopt a motion of support to adopt the I-280 northbound Geneva Avenue off-ramp study, and this is an action item. And Mike Tan, senior engineer, is here to present this item.
Good evening, CAC members. I'm Mike Tan, senior engineer with Capital Project, and let me talk to you about the I-280 northbound Geneva Avenue off-ramp safety improvement study. Okay, and the purpose of this particular study is particularly on the Geneva Avenue off-ramp of the I-280 freeway. As you can see from this photo on the right, this particular off-ramp suffers from like a chronic traffic queue, usually spilling back to the I-280 mainline freeway and actually resulting in collisions. And part of that is due to the location of this. This is right next to the Belvoir Park Bar and Muni Station. Okay, it's a very compact diamond interchange. There's a huge amount of pedestrian traffic in the area, and there's also local education institutes like Dallas City College, Wilmington, and Bevel High. So there are a lot of safety issues that came out of this, and also, if you can see from the bottom photo, okay, this particular off-ramp is used as a pedestrian, pick-up and drop-off zone. That is how congested it can get out there. Okay, so and this happens very often, and during a 5-year period between 2016 and 2021, there were 89 crashes within a quarter mile south of the Geneva Avenue Bridge, which is at the top of that photo. Okay, so and 31 crashes associated with the off-ramp. The other remaining crashes are, a lot of them are also connected with this area. I'm going to go on to the next slide. And this is just a map of the area showing, the location, and then the Bar and Muni Station, and then just the geography of this. Next slide. This was the existing off-ramp traffic circulation area in the top right diagram. That is kind of like an NK diagram of the traffic flow. So we have like number one, which is basically traffic coming from the right lane of the off-ramp, making a right turn to the Belvoir Park Station. And of course, it runs into the San Jose Avenue, which has a light rail train. So that often causes traffic to back up. Number two is just the left lane. And I want to point out number three. And number three is where the westbound Geneva Avenue traffic makes a left turn to the I-280 southbound on-ramp. And that is the bottom photo that you see. That has led to previously a pedestrian crossing conflict. And in this particular situation, what happened was that the left turn pocket lane would get the lead left turn green lights, and the cars would kind of proceed, but the car just keep moving. So even though that eventually the pedestrians get the green lights, the cars still keep going, and that's why you get this pedestrian conflict at that time. Yeah, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Now, out of the Geneva Avenue safety study, okay, we developed several recommendations. The near-term recommendation is to implement a new signal and phasing change. This is for both ramp intersection, the I-280 northbound off-ramp, and also the I-280 southbound off-ramp, which is also the southbound on-ramp. Okay, so both intersections. The intersections are actually controlled, owned, and operated by Caltrans. And so we were able to work closely with Caltrans and SFMTA, who operate the signals a block away from this intersection. And they were both very, very helpful. And we managed to develop those signal changes. And with Caltrans and MTA's help, we were also able to implement those changes as part of the study, which was not in the original scope. The midterm recommendations from this report include pursuing traffic signal modernization, and this is to replace those signals at both ramp intersections. That does require additional funding, and we're also considering another off-ramp lengthening study. This is to study the off-ramp going all the way to the mainline freeway and a little bit beyond. Okay, and then next slide. This is just a near-term signal traffic modifications. That those three diagrams are just an illustration of what we were able to implement. I will point out the middle diagram B, And then you can tell that we kind of fixed that westbound Geneva left turn to the southbound on-ramp. And so this as the new signal configuration that was implemented with Caltrans and SFCTA. So basically, we were also able to change that left turn from a leading left turn to a lagging left turn. So what happened is that instead of the left turn traffic to the southbound on-ramp, basically keeping moving nonstop and preventing pedestrians from crossing the crosswalk, we shifted out to a lagging left turn, which means that they actually get the green light signal after the eastbound traffic is able to proceed and after pedestrians are able to cross the crosswalk, so that there is higher visibility for that. Okay, I'll go on to the next slide. This is just the results of that near-term signal modification implementation from the two photos of the before and after. You can tell from before we often got a lot of congestion at the ramp intersection. That was because of a lot of the traffic backup. And the bottom photo is the new configuration in which overall it shows improvement and less congestion on the westbound Geneva Avenue. We were also able to reduce the off-ramp queue and improve the traffic flow through that area. So that should reduce the number of collisions on the I-280 main line. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we were able to also fix that pedestrian safety issue at the I-280 southbound on-ramp. And this is an overall improvement that we implemented. So I'll go on to the next slide. From our midterm recommendations, we are recommending potential signal upgrades, and we are suggesting that we move forward with upgrading the overhead signals and also incorporating longer mass arms. This is for both ramp intersections. This will improve the visibility, and we're hoping that we can use more updated signals and have newer features such as vehicle detection equipment. The existing signals are actually quite old. They're more than half a century old. This does require additional coordination with Caltrans. It does require a Caltrans approval process and the Caltrans project study reports and additional funding. One of the other recommendations was the off-ramp lengthening study. And this is where we'll look at lengthening the existing off-ramp and to actually improve that flow through that particular area. This will also require additional Caltrans coordination since this involves Caltrans right-of-way. This will also move through Caltrans preliminary engineering and environmental document approval process and also design and construction. We do anticipate additional funding is needed, to go through this process. And I'll go on to the next slide. And the next step, we're looking at continuing the coordination with Caltrans and SFCTA, and this is to continue to evaluate that particular ramp intersection after our signal timing changes, and also to pursue the signal upgrade with Caltrans. This will require additional funding. Funding sources may come from different areas, including the State Highway Operation Program, SHOP, Prop L, SB1, Local Partnership Program. Okay, and we also recommend pursuing the funding option for the midterm study to lengthening the off-ramp. And with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I'll take questions. And I also want to let everybody know that we do have SFMTA representative Tony Young with us today to also answer questions. Tony was helping out with this project and is a part of the project.
Great, thank you so much for the presentation. Member Davidson?
Thanks for your presentation. I'm in District 11, so this is my off-ramp and on-ramp. The southbound section of the on-ramp to southbound 280, that intersection, I've noticed that it's been improved. But that intersection itself, the pedestrian traffic light has actually been mowed down 2 or 3 different times. And now it's new again, but is there a way to, I don't know, put some pedestrian cones around the intersection? Because even though the left turn light is lagging now, they're still coming down from Geneva, like from City College, there's the right turn on red. And so I can't tell you how many times I've almost been hit in that intersection walking at BART. And at night, it's really sketchy. I'm like waving like this in the middle of the intersection. So we need more lights. And can there be no right on red for that pedestrian, like that right turn on red that would intersect the pedestrian crosswalk going on the 280? So yeah, proposing no right on red, additional lights for the crosswalk, and in addition to the lagging left light, can there just be a pedestrian only light where all the cars just have red? Wait. It's extremely dangerous. And then the other side, the off ramp coming onto Geneva as a driver, it's extremely sketchy. Like I don't have any proposed solutions. It's just I personally get pretty anxious driving, and I know everyone else does. I've been almost hit a number of times driving as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, and there are issues overall that we are aware of. Okay, and that is one of the reasons why we are recommending the midterm signal upgrade. We've done what we can with the existing technology, and we do think that upgrading the signals, right, will actually improve performance. We also want to include better improved street lighting as part of that process also. Okay, so that will require additional coordination with Caltrans and also city departments to actually go through that phase. Okay, so, and that's all part of the next midterm recommendation.
But I mean, is it possible to put in no right turn on red in the recommendation, and it needs a whole new system to just allow the pedestrians to cross without any without any interference?
So, thank you for those questions. We will take an action to evaluate that. It's likely that it's simpler to install a sign. But let us go back to SFCTA and Caltrans to work through that. Your question also about could we include a phase that has all vehicles stopped and just pedestrians?
Right.
We did talk about that internally, and that was part of our evaluating and monitoring exercise. So it's good to hear your feedback, because it's not lost on us that any improvement we make solves everything. So, so the fact that you're bringing it up, I say kind of brings it back into the equation in terms of the overall timing of the cycle. And so if we do that, the concern was that there's a trade-off somewhere else in the cycle. But either way, pedestrian safety is so important that it's worth another way.
Yeah, the trade-off is no one dies and gets hit by a car. It's a pretty good trade-off.
I would agree with you. So that's what I'm saying. We will take the action to.
And it only works if there's no right turn on red. Because if there's a right turn on red, then you're still in the line of fire as a pedestrian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Bars.
Thank you, Chair Siegel. I would just like to plus my previous colleagues' comments back across the board. I have a question and I'd like to make a comment. So my question, I read this memo with great interest. This is not my district, I'm District 7, so I'm very close to this, and so I know this intersection very well. And much like my colleague on the committee, we had some pretty scary close calls, both as pedestrians and drivers at this intersection. And my question is, I was very surprised with what felt like a very narrow set of ways to fix it.
And I was surprised I didn't see some like bigger picture things like, we're just gonna close this part of the off ramp or the off ramp. Or like, there's too much going on here. Cars can't make a left onto the freeway here. We gotta stop. Did you think about those kinds of like solutions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we did look at like a number of potential solutions, and we did look at the entire area also. And we do know that this is a very challenging area, and not just at this intersection, but throughout the nearby intersections also. It's a heavy amount of traffic. Okay. So, and these are actually questions that we brought up before and internally. Okay, and we do think there could be long-term improvements in the area, not just at this intersection, but actually, potentially in the area. But with this particular intersection, we do think that, for example, the midterm lane lengthening study, right, can probably be used to incorporate something more about the bigger changes. When we started out with this was more just at local level, including with the traffic signal upgrade, okay, and to see what else is possible. I do think that when we move to the next stage, that we will represent, additional recommendations.
Okay, thank you. So then I feel like I must make my comment. So this is the Citizens Advisory Committee. This is the moment where we get to provide some advice. I am inclined frankly to oppose this. And the reason why is because I don't think it's reasonable. We have a climate and traffic safety crisis with two crises happening simultaneously. A family was killed 2 weeks ago, a week ago at West Portal in my district by a driver. And this piece of work, while I do not debate the quality of the work that went into it, it just feels like it is fundamentally scoped to be, how do we make this crazy mess of an intersection just incrementally better, as opposed to significantly different. And we need to be wrestling with significant changes. And so in good conscience, I don't want to invest in a lengthening study. I don't want to invest public dollars in that. I want to invest public dollars in significant changes in these complicated intersections where people are walking in harm's way and make really big changes. So I have to just share my point of view, and that as a neighboring district, who's also somebody who benefits as a driver from having freeway access, and it's not worth it to me anymore. The trade-off of always prioritizing the vehicle throughput at the expense of everything else, I'm finding that trade-off to be less and less appealing. That is my advice and my role on this committee.
So I appreciate the comments and understand that it could appear that what we're presenting is a small piece of work. I would say that when this work was commissioned, it was focused on vehicular traffic that is on the freeway and trying to find a way to reduce the queuing that happens on the off ramp, and that also backs up the main line of the freeway, causing collisions. That was the exercise, was to find a way to make that better. And we looked at, and I'm sure Mike can get into more details of it, but we looked at a number of different things. One that we're not recommending is to widen the off ramp, because we were concerned about widening the off ramp could somehow lead to a double right turn, to something that we know is not, the way we want to move forward in the city. So we, along with other technical challenges that we saw, but we were likely over time maybe would overcome those, but we could not overcome the concept of recommending a widened off ramp, which we would not be able to control years down the road if someone had the bright idea of having a double right turn. So we do not recommend that. Some other challenges that we have are that I think some of it that you're conveying would be studied with this effort of a traffic signal upgrade, because it would force not only us, but Caltrans and SFMTA to figure out how can we make that intersection safer. And I think as we indicated on the slide, which of course the slide can't always do it justice, but it includes streetlights. And so the idea is to try to make it safer and to increase the visibility. Now, the question about could we decide to shut down the off-ramp? Maybe, but I think that would be a different study, and we'd be happy to take back that feedback. But I just wanted to at least provide some context as to how we were commissioned to enter into the exercise, and it was focused on vehicles. And then when we observed the pedestrian conflict, we took it upon ourselves to focus on that, because we can't, as an agency, just focus on vehicles. We're not in the vehicle moving business. We're in people moving and making sure that people can travel safely and in a healthy manner. So that's why the signal timing was let's say, an easier win to get something done and to be able to say we did something. But I also got to say, even doing that wasn't easy because of the ancient infrastructure that's there. It took about 3 times for even that to happen, because when Caltrans came to the site, there were some, you start tinkering with components, and then you find that things aren't working the way they should. So they had to go back to the drawing board, and it took months to get them to come back. But we wanted them to come back with a solution. So I do appreciate and I can understand that this may not be enough. And that's why we didn't want to just end it with, oh, we have a near-term recommendation and implement it, and that's it. We wanted to also offer what more can we do? And given, how our agency is structured, we wanted to at least say we want to do more, but it's going to still take working with Caltrans, working with MTA. Another benefit to this near-term implementation is that, and I'm sure Tony could explain it if he needed to, is that he and his staff had to coordinate the subsequent intersections on San Jose Avenue and Delano Avenue to make sure that the timing of those intersections, as well as the light rail preemptions, were also aligned with the vehicular timing signal modifications. And to get both of those agencies to work better together, instead of having one agency go out and write down what they think the timing is, they actually were able to work closer together so that it's aligned. All that being said, I do understand that, yes, that we wish we could say that we'd like to do more, and that's why we didn't want to just end it with that near-term implementation. But we know that it's not something that we can just snap our fingers and say, oh, let's make this happen. But let's believe, with your approval, we will be pushing to do more with Caltrans. We've already talked to them. They know that we even put a programming effort of $500,000 to help as seed or leverage funding for this signal upgrade, so that it's not just us saying we want to implement a midterm recommendation. We put some money at the table to try to convince Caltrans to also do more. So I wanted to at least say that, and I realize that even that answer doesn't answer it all, but I just wanted to show that we understand it's not as simple as just what we propose as a near term.
I do appreciate that context, so thank you, and that wasn't in the demo, so I appreciate your framing and that extra context, that does make a difference. Again, lengthening study, well, that means we're adding more highway miles, doesn't it? lengthening right there, the name. So, I mean, that's a problem.
I'm sorry, just back and forth, Chair Siegel, but I just wanted
the exit only back another half mile and get everybody over. I guess I didn't see any suggestions that were really about managing the freeway. And you mentioned the signals are already end of life. Are we kind of laundering safety on the freeway for infrastructure upgrade because we need it anyway? Like, I don't know. How do you directly address this like queuing problem? And sorry, I'll pause there. That's one of the questions. And then the other question I had, just noting the signal lengthening changes, how long are we expecting the pedestrian, primarily and also this local traffic, to wait at this intersection while we have a longer signal period for freeway traffic? What do those waits start to look like? Did you experiment with like the European style, like micro cycles of like one car at a time? That's it.
Hi, thanks for the question. So, we did talk to Caltrans about like the freeway itself, okay? And we, although it's not exactly in the study, we did look at different options for improving the freeway, you know, such as, reducing the average lane width, you know, to basically accommodate like a better exit lane strategy, okay? I do want to note that the existing off-ramp does not meet standard Caltrans highway conditions. That's due to the fact of the terrain itself, it's very short. We also have the San Jose Avenue Bridge, which actually acts as a bottleneck for like a lot of the queuing issues. Okay. You know, so the bridge itself is, you know, actually kind of put a huge limit, you know, on what can be done. And that is one of the reasons why there's like 89 crashes, 31s with the off ramp, but the other ones were associated with the San Jose. Okay. But so we did look at the freeway itself, okay, and there are some trade-offs if we were to make changes on the freeway. We look at such as reducing the average lane width of the lane from like 12 to like say 10 and a half, you know, maybe 11, right? But then, you know, that may introduce other conditions on the freeway, and there's also a curve on the freeway at that point. So any changes you make, you have to make it like half a mile or a mile away before, all the vehicles start transitioning to this. So that is something that we can take into consideration. So I do want to mention that, although it may not be in the study, we did look at it within the project team itself.
There's the frontage road. Sorry, the history, the previous study, the 2014, someone said, let's close this ramp and do the frontage road. But it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, so from the 2014 traffic circulation study, there was a recommendation to close the northbound on-ramp, okay, and turn it into a frontage road, okay? So we did look at that also in another study, this was just a follow-up study, okay? And if we were to actually close that frontage road, it will not work as well for the overall traffic circulation because it would push all the northbound on-ramp traffic to the Ocean Avenue on-ramp traffic, right? So they would have to kind of circle around, on San Jose and go on to the northbound Ocean Avenue on-ramp. Okay. And that would kind of get congested in that area. So we would just sort of push the issue around. The frontage road also requires, I'm familiar with that study. It will require a lot of additional coordination because we do have the farm trains in the tracks very close by. There are other structural issues in regard to that frontage road.
And then last, can you comment on are you lengthening the signal cycles and how long is that gonna change for weights for local traffic?
So for this particular signal timing change, right? The average signal timing change signals is like a 90-second cycle for the ramp intersections, okay? And so we try to kind of stay within that constraint. It's typical of SFMTA, that is the average cycle time. Okay? During the peak hours, we did increase it to 95 seconds. We did not increase it a lot because the more you increase the cycle time, you're kind of holding back traffic in certain areas. So that leads to other rear-end collision issues. Because traffic is constantly moving, so it's coming from multiple directions, right? So the longer any particular directions have to kind of stall out and it leads to collision. So we thought this 90-second and then this 95-second during peak hour was like the optimal solution given the technology that exists out there.
And again, we are, as we stated, we are still evaluating and monitoring. So all your feedback is good because it just, we can do what we think we can do, but we need to hear from others. So we do appreciate it.
Member Milford Rosales.
I'd also like to second or third or fourth the concerns voiced by the other members of the CAC. One of my best friends used to live a few blocks from there, and I would alternate between biking and taking part to visit him. And it was a nightmare trying to get back, especially like during regular time, like after dark during rush hours. So I would just very much like to see a light of incidents, both Westport recently and last year in my district on 4th and King. Like it seems like we have a lot of really bad traffic interactions right near major transit transfer points, and I would really like to see any study looking forward into this area to take that into account and consider that people that are transferring between various transit modes shouldn't also be in the middle of really complicated interchanges for vehicles.
Member Margarita.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to and I'm in agreement with all of the previous statements made by all of the members, and I just had a couple of questions and comments. So has there been any engagement efforts in asking the local community members to give and for you all to hear their perspective in the planning process? I'm not sure if, I'm sure you're aware, but there's no housing not too far away from there, and it's low income, affordable housing. Literally right next to the BART station. There's a childcare there. There's a lot of elderly people there, and actually, my tias, my aunts, live in that area. They are elderly and they don't drive anymore, right? So they walk right around that area. And let's see, so just kind of thinking, you know, childcare, children, elderly, they walk slower, you know, in packs, etc. Right? So it just kind of trying to give a visual, but I would really appreciate the perspective of engaging the members in the community to see what they think. And then lastly, you know, I'm in D9, but I go and visit my aunts there all the time. And so as a long time San Francisco resident, I'm aware of when I'm going to exit there, I got to slow down, right? Because it's going to be a long line right there. And so I'm going to echo, I think the other member on the committee stated, can't we go a little bit farther back, looking at half a mile, right? If you're coming out, just to put a line on the freeway. So similar to the San Jose Avenue exit, you know how it's known, it's going to curve, and you have like a much longer, I want to say, kind of like alert, oh, this is gonna curve into San Jose. Because I think for people who have lived here a long time, we're aware that maybe if we have visiting folks, they're like driving fast in whatever type of fast car they're driving, not minding the speed limit, and that's what's dangerous, because they don't know, hey, there's going to be an exit right here. And so if we can go further back and just, you know, make a line on the freeway, half a mile in, so people that aren't going to try and exit are like, oh, let me go to all the way to the left, right? So they're not going to possibly hit the cars that are waiting in the red light to exit on that Geneva exit, if that makes any sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So to be quick, part of the engagement, the answer to that is that's part of what we're asking to get approval to do with the study. And then the lengthening, we hear you in regards to wanting to start further back. There is that San Jose Avenue bridge with the column. So we realize we also, that's part of working with Caltrans, but yes, we hear you.
And sorry, just to add to that, because a lot of members in the community are busy with work, 2 jobs, etc. I just advocate for stipends for the community members who are going to participate, so that their input is valued, and they get a stipend for participating. And if they have children, that childcare gets provided. Thank you. Sorry about that, Chair.
Member Davidson, did you? Yeah. Okay.
Lastly, the 280 also has the other side of the on-ramp, off-ramp on Ocean Avenue, and those are also pedestrian nightmares crossing. There's a crosswalk, the exit right on next to City College that comes onto Ocean Avenue. That's a blind crosswalk right there. I've almost been hit numerous times on that crosswalk as well. It's right next to a park, it's right next to a college, it's, you know, look, Wolverine's right across the street. And then there's that other crosswalk. So effectively the entire BART station and all these anchor institutions are surrounded by high-speed off-ramps and on-ramps. So I think it would be remiss for your organization to only look at the, like, focus on pedestrian safety on the Geneva side when there's 280 connections on the Ocean side as well. And I want to echo Member Bars and just say, like, be bold, prioritize pedestrian safety and bicycle safety. And if you need to inconvenience drivers, so be it. Like, this is the time we need to act. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I would to kind of follow up on that, there is a separate project for I-280 southbound Ocean Avenue off-ramp, and that will try to, I mean, it's an existing free flow right turn. I know it's a very hazardous, crosswalk, right? And we will try to turn that into a key intersection and install a crosswalk. Those things. Yeah.
Member Ortega?
Yeah, this is probably more a question for Maria. I'll ask that second. I just wanted to add a comment on that. When we first started talking about this, my geography of that area is not that great. I actually thought you were talking about Ocean Avenue for like 5 minutes. So just to add to the points that they were making of how I mixed them up, that is my own fault. I will own my geography inability here, but the fact that I could go for 5 minutes and not realize that I was not thinking about the right intersection, I do think says something. Especially as someone that has to go when I drive on the freeway, I get off at the San Jose Avenue exit to get into District 8, and I avoid both the right lane and all of the other things like the plague because there are lots of cars that just slam the brake because they are suddenly stopped, backed up on the highway, and I think that that's kind of where I would like to echo all of my companions' comments of there really needs to be something done about this intersection. And I understand how originally it came from a concern about traffic because accidents on the freeway tend to get a lot more people involved than accidents on our streets, unfortunately. And they tend to be bad. But that doesn't change the fact that you have 2 intersections next to critical infrastructure that are so terrifying that I actually didn't move there because I didn't want to have to walk across the street to go to the Balboa Park station. So that brings me to my question, which is, from everything I've gathered from this committee, it sounds like there is very strong opposition to this particular study and or we would like to request additional studies and or combination of studies and or something bigger, and I'd like to understand what our ability to do as a committee is. I understand that we can vote no, but I feel like voting no or abstaining does not necessarily get us the thing that we're wanting. So I would like to just ask Maria and the CAC to help me and everyone here understand what actions we have given the concerns that have been raised tonight.
Thank you, Member Ortega. That's a perfect segue. So I just want keep a post-it note in your head. Carl's mentioned, and then Mike, there's a number of things we do want to keep working on that address some of what was raised. Through the chair, if it's okay, I would like to have Deputy Director for Planning Rachel Hyatt talk about another study that we're doing, which when paired together might help you out.
Hi, good evening, CAC members. Rachel Hyatt, I'm the Deputy for Planning at SFCTA. And a few months ago, this committee, in approving the Vision Zero ramps line item and 5-year prioritization program within Prop L, approved a allocation and award for a Vision Zero ramps phase 3 study, which is mostly funded by a federal Safe Streets for All grant, but is being matched with Prop L in the Vision Zero ramps category. And in fact, these ramps are among the 13 that will be looked at for bold and permanent long-term multimodal transformation. And so I really value all of the feedback and thoughts that you have shared tonight. And these are, that study is one at a minimum of the ways that we will look at the bigger picture and bold transformation at this area. The study has not, I would also add, it has not yet kicked off. We are in the process of seeking technical professional support services, as well as outreach support services. and expect to have a public kickoff with, community in the next quarter.
Ortega, I don't know if that answers your question.
I would more want to ensure that it helps the members that have spoken much more adamantly and are much more familiar with this intersection than I am. I was just trying to ensure I understood and the committee understood what options we have regarding this, considering how long we have been talking about it. Not that it's bad. As someone that has been sitting in some of these very contentious positions, I like to make sure that we are able to understand our full ability and understand. So that's one for the group.
So may I ask, we can make a motion. Can we break out pieces if there are pieces that people are opposed to, or make a motion to approve with conditions if somebody wanted to?
Yes, thank you, Chair Siegel. So, first of all, underscore, I am assuming you're very capable chair will be reporting out on this discussion fully at the next board meeting. So you could make an amendment, whether you approve or not approve the study, to paraphrase, urge bolder or pedestrian friendly or whatever, type of work, and that happen quickly. So tag that onto whatever action you take with respect to the report. If you wish, you could also encourage this agency to get a move on the Vision Zero RAMP study that Rachel just described.
Member Bars?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, everybody, and also thank you for facilitating this discussion. I feel like oftentimes we have presentations, we have comments and things move on, and I actually feel like this has been a really interesting committee discussion. So thank you, Member Ortega, for your questions and everything. I am certainly one of the people who spoke more adamantly, but I will just like to stipulate that I am really eager to hear Member Davidson's opinion on this. I just personally still I think I'm persuaded that the near-term signal timing and phase changes are valuable, but frankly, as framed in this study, I am just really struggling with anything that's medium or long-term as framed here. Lengthening study has really rubbed me the wrong way. And I appreciate your comments and the history, but it just feels like not learning from comments in this committee, as well as what we are dealing with on our streets today. So I would probably support an amendment in which we advanced the approval for the near-term signal timing and phase changes, but struggle frankly with the remainder of the recommendations. And I would also probably agree with the recommendation to urge our planning team to get a move on it with the Vision Zero ramps work. That I think would be very interesting. But I'm very interested to hear Member Davidson's opinion.
Yeah, +1, and the amendment to urge the CTA to be bold and prioritize pedestrian and cyclist safety and if it's at the expense of drivers, it's okay. We're gonna save some lives. That's important. That should be the priority.
Member Ford?
I want to just ask the question. So our choices here are to approve it as the item is written. Are we allowed to make a motion to amend the item as written? Also, are we allowed to make a motion to request something else to be included? Is that the scope of the type of action we're allowed to take? That's what I'm looking for guidance on.
Right, so this is a staff written study, right? So the CAC could take a recommendation saying, just to paraphrase what it said, Member Barr said, to approve the near-term recommendations urge the Transportation Authority to, as Member Davidson said, be bold about ped and bike safety, use that the sense of cars, and expedite Vision Zero study, for instance.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I do have one question before we move on, and I really appreciate all the discussion that's been had and also the additional context that you all provided about where the study started. I also personally, at this point, would be inclined to approve the near-term recommendations, but not the medium-term recommendations of the ramp lengthening personally. Related to that, I would like to ask, since the introduction to the study talked about the fact that initially this was about queuing and cited all the collisions that have taken place in the area that involve drivers in the past several years, it did say that the most collisions involved unsafe speed and unsafe lane changes, and I was just wondering whether, I mean, is the queuing related to that? Because intuitively, I would think that more congestion and queuing in the area would slow down drivers, and I was wondering if you all do think that reducing congestion in the area will actually decrease severe injury and fatal collisions. Because I would think that it would speed up traffic through the area. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, so just in regard to the queuing itself, once the queuing reaches the mainline freeway, okay, so that backs up the freeway, and sometimes that queue stretches all the way back to the San Jose Avenue Bridge. So it goes pretty far back sometimes. And right before the San Jose Avenue Bridge, the I-280 makes a turn. Okay, so that the vehicles that are on northbound I-280, as they're making that turn, they're not expecting necessarily that there is a queue. And that's when they kind of slam on the brakes and then, have like the rear end collisions. We also have cases in the report, there's a lot of side swipes because there's also a lot of other vehicles trying to exit and merge in at the last minute. So that they're coming in from like the number 3 lane into like the number 4. So, and you do also have people who are in the queue lane who get frustrated and they'll pop out of the queue, right? And so once they pop out, the vehicles that in the other lane may not be expecting them to pop out, all of a sudden. So there are a lot of these quirks, and that does lead to the collision incidents that we have at that location.
Thank you. And would there be a possibility to do something to slow people down in that area, given that that's the case? Like if there's sort of an unsafe curve where people are queuing a bunch, could we recommend that like the speed limit be lowered in that area, or that I don't know, put in some kind of calming measure? Like, is that something we could recommend to prevent collisions as opposed to trying to move people faster through the area?
So also, I think that signage, possibly on the freeway. Okay, and this is something that we can go back and work with. Let them know about.
We also thought we were considering that to be part of the ramp lengthening study. We don't know if even going through that study, we have a resulting longer ramp, but going through that effort with Caltrans, that was part of what we saw as the steps. And as Mike mentioned also, we had also looked at narrowing the lanes as another way to calm the speed pattern. So that would also be part of that study. But we understand that the recommendation may not be approved, but I just want to give context that we were viewing that as part of the exercise.
I appreciate that additional context. Thank you. Member Levine.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, that's still work.
I broke it. Just a quick question and possibly a very easy, quick approach to this. Heading south on 101 at Blythedale in Marin, as you come over the hill, there's a sign that says beware, basically. Traffic may be backed up ahead of you, and please slow down. I can't remember whether there's a blinking light there at all, but it's a very prominent big sign, and it's very effective. You're coming up the hill, and you don't know that what might be on the other side, and the sign really tells you to watch out because it may very well be backed up and you may get into a collision. So that might be something to duplicate, replicate, but something to look at.
Great. If there are no more questions or comments from members, we can take public comment on this item. Is there any public comment in the room? Not seeing any. Is there any remote public comment on this item?
No remote public comment.
Okay, great. I can entertain a motion related to this item if somebody would like to move.
Second it, or what do I do?
Well, we can take a motion to approve the item. It sounded like maybe there was interest in an alternative or an amendment or approve with a recommendation. So yeah, I'm open to any motion.
Just for, sorry, Chair Siegel, just for process, so it sounds like definitely want some sort of change to the staff recommendation. So what you need is a motion to amend the staff recommendation. So if whoever wishes to move it can articulate what you would like to propose to approve, then there needs to be a vote on that. If that motion to amend passes, then we have a second vote, and that's like the action you are voting on finally. I'll walk you through it, but someone needs to articulate what the proposed motion is.
Motion to amend. And now I have to say what it is. Okay. The amendment that I'd like to make is to approve the near term, I want to get the language right, the near term improvements recommended by staff. And I would like to, gosh, I'd like to do exactly what you said a minute ago, Maria. And I would like to urge the Vision Zero ramps project to get started. And I would like to urge the how should I frame this? I would imagine that we will continue to work on capital projects such as these, and that we will entertain more recommendations. And I would just urge these recommendations to first come through the lens of like safety for the most vulnerable road users as the top priority, and to propose bold solutions such as that, so that could be significant changes to these, especially these dangerous multimodal intersections.
Was a
So
clear,
yeah, if you're right with staff trying to tweak the words later, and I can run it by the chair, but might just repeat back to make sure on member bars this sounds okay.
Yeah.
So I heard was
I preemptively approve tweaking.
So a member to approve the near-term recommendations in the study to urge staff to expedite the Vision Zero ramp phase 3 study, which is what Director Hyatt spoke about, and then urge the Transportation Authority to view projects such as this through the lens of with focusing on safety for the most vulnerable users and be bold. I'll make that sound better later. Is that wait? Yes.
That sounds about right. I wish I was more articulate off the cuff, but sure, yeah, that works. Yeah.
Okay. So then you would need a second for that.
No, is there a second?
I second it.
Member Davis. Second. So can we take a roll call vote on the proposed amendment?
On the proposed amendment, member Bars.
Bars, aye.
Bars, aye. Member Chen.
Chen, aye.
Chen, aye. Member Daniels is absent. Member Davidson.
Davidson, I.
Davidson, aye. Member Ford.
Ford, aye.
Ford, aye. Member Kim.
Kim Epstein,
Kim abstain. Member Levine.
Levine, aye.
Levine, aye. Member Margarita. So stickers.
Okay, sorry. I, Margarita, I.
Member Margarita, aye. Member Milford Rosales.
Member Milford Rosales, aye.
Milford Rosales, aye. Member Ortega.
Ortega, aye.
Member Ortega, aye. Chair Siegel.
Siegel, aye.
Chair Siegel, aye. The motion to amend passes.
Great, can we then get a motion, to approve the amended
Amended
item?
motion, yeah, amended items.
Amended motion?
On the amended motion, member Bars.
Bars, aye.
Bars, aye. Member Chen.
Chen, aye.
Chen, aye. Member Daniels absent. Member Davidson.
Sorry, the amended motion is the remainder of the study?
No, that the proposal that member Barsini seconded is now what we're voting on. Does the CC want to approve that?
I see, okay, yes.
Yes, okay.
Davidson, I.
Member Davidson, aye. Member Ford.
Ford, aye.
Member Ford, aye. Member Kim.
Kim Epstein,
Kim abstain. Member Levine.
Levine, aye.
Levine, aye. Member Margarita.
Member Margarita, I.
Got it. Member Margarita, aye. Member Milford Rosales.
Member Milford Rosales, aye.
Milford Rosales, aye. Member Ortega.
Ortega, aye.
Member Ortega, aye. Chair Siegel.
Siegel, aye.
Chair Siegel, aye. Motion as amended is approved.
Great. Thank you so much for the discussion, really appreciate it. All right. That puts us on item 7, which is to adopt a motion of support to amend the adopted fiscal year 2023-2024 budget to increase revenues by $5 million and decrease expenditures by $9.4 million and decrease other financing sources by $15 million for a total net decrease in fund balance of $1.3 million. And this is an action item. And Lily, you, Principal Management Analyst, is here to present this item.
Good evening, Chair Siegel and CAC members. Lily Yu, Finance Manager. Welcome. I'm here today to present our proposed fiscal year 2023-24 budget amendment. This is an action item. The budget amendment revision is an opportunity for us to take stock of changes in during the fiscal year, recognizing revenue trends and grants or other funds that were awarded to us subsequent to the adoption of the annual budget. And also adjust for any unforeseen expenditures. We're pleased to report that this year's proposed amendment is a pretty standard one. Our fiscal year spans from July 1st to June 30th of each year. Overall, we are proposing to amend the adopted fiscal year 2023-24 budget to increase revenues by $5.1 million, decrease expenditures by $9.4 million, and decrease other financing sources by $15 million. First, I'll go over the major changes in revenues. This slide shows revenue comparisons between the adopted budget in blue and then the proposed amended budget in gray. Our largest revenue source, the half-cent sales tax, appears to be trending lower than budgeted based on sales tax revenues received through January 2024. We project sales tax revenues to decrease by $6.2 million or 5.5% as compared to the adopted budget, from $112 million to $106 million. The sales tax decrease is due to a shift from consumers buying taxable goods to non-taxable goods, such as personal services, travel, and healthcare. In addition, the inflation rate has come down significantly, so increased prices are no longer a significant sales tax driver. Also, the return to workplace and business and international travel all have been returning slower than anticipated. We are also projecting a decrease in the traffic congestion mitigation tax revenue by 1.7 million as compared to the adopted budget. This would bring our revenue down from 10.2 million to 8.5 million. And the projection is based on revenues earned through December 2023 and is also aligned with the city's controller's estimates. We are, however, projecting an increase in program revenues by 12.6 million, bringing that revenue source to 67 million, which is mainly related to grants that were deferred from last fiscal year, but also new grants awarded to us since we adopted the budget. Next, I'll dive a little deeper into the revenues related to program revenues. We anticipate collecting an additional 23.1 million in federal grant funding for the Southgate Road Realignment Improvement Project, which has been deferred from last year. This is due to Caltrans's cash management policy that requires local agencies to use non-federal funding sources to advance the projects until the federal funds are obligated and available for reimbursement, which would happen this fiscal year. Also, for the YBI West Side Bridges project, we are prioritizing federal and state grants that do not require local match. So now projecting a decrease in the federal RAISE grant that does require a local match, but then increasing our federal highway bridge program and state Prop 1B grants so that we can prioritize using federal and state funds first. For the YBI multi-use project, the California Transportation Commission allocated a 3.8 million state active transportation program grant to us last Friday, and we anticipate receiving 665,000 in this fiscal year for the design phase study. Also, several new sales tax appropriation funding projects appropriations were approved during the fiscal year, totaling 894,000. And we anticipate starting these projects in the current fiscal year for approximately 145,000, as well as continuing them in the next fiscal year. So you'll see that in our work program for the next fiscal year. In terms of expenditures, we are proposing to decrease total expenditures by 9.4 million, bringing our total expenditures down to 250 million. The largest changes are downward adjustments in capital project costs budgeted under the sales tax and congestion management programs. There's no impact to project funding, but the cost will be shifted to spend in the next fiscal year. For capital project costs, several project activities are being deferred to next year, including a $9 million decrease for the YBI West Side Bridges construction project. Several subcontractors were mobilized later than planned. However, the overall construction is still on schedule to be completed by December 2026. The YBI Southgate or Torpedo building is also projected to decrease by 1.5 million, and we've been in coordination with the U.S. Coast Guard to complete the right-of-way transfer for this project. Also, the Torpedo building construction bid package has been delayed by a quarter, and we anticipate advertising for construction bid in May. We are projecting an increase of 2.7 million for the YBI Hillcrest Road Improvement Project as we begin the construction phase. And this represents the first year of activities concurrent with the request presented earlier by our Deputy Director for Capital Projects for the construction contract award. Major changes in admin operating costs include a decrease of 551,000 in personnel expenses, which is related to unanticipated staff departures, as well as the delay of hiring vacant positions. And the estimated level of sales tax, capital project costs, as well as while total expenditures are 250 million and total revenues of 189 million, this may trigger the need to draw down from our revolving credit loan agreement. We are anticipating a decrease from 75 million to 60 million. And the decrease is partially due to a higher bank balance in our pooled account at the start of the fiscal year, as well as anticipating a large repayment of federal and state grant reimbursements for the South Gate project. We'll continue to monitor capital spending during the remainder of this year, especially through conversations with our project sponsors like SFCTA. And we'll return back to this committee and the board to seek approval to borrow money or draw down from the revolving credit agreement. With that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any comments or questions? Oh, Member Ford?
It's been a big night. I really wanted to breeze through this, but I just want to really quick. The sales tax funding is going to end. It's 5K for our Vision Zero ramp intersection study phase 3, and then the expenditures are decreasing with the Vision Zero ramps phase 3, losing 242K. Am I correct in interpreting that we are going to study ramps, but we are not going to do anything for the ramps because we're reducing expenditures on the ramps?
The reduction in expenditures is related to the delay in the procurement. But we have started the procurement, but we anticipate those expenditures will happen next fiscal year.
Are there any other questions or comments from members? Not seeing any. Is there any public comment in the room on this item? Not seeing any. Is there any remote public comment on this item?
Oh, sorry. Lily, would you mind stop sharing? Yeah. Thank you.
No remote public
comment. Okay, great. Public comment on this item is closed. Can I get a motion to approve this item? Member Ford?
Motion approved. Motion to approve.
Seconded by Member Kim. Can we get a roll call vote on this item?
Yes, Chair Siegel, on item 7, Member Bars.
Bars aye.
Bars aye. Member Chen.
Chen aye.
Chen aye. Member Daniels is absent. Member Davidson.
Davidson, aye.
Davidson aye. Member Ford.
Ford aye.
Ford aye. Member Kim.
Kim, aye.
Kim aye. Member Levine.
Levine, aye.
Levine aye. Member Margarita.
Member Margarita aye.
Margarita aye. Member Milford Rosales.
Member Milford Rosales, aye.
Milford Rosales aye. Member Ortega.
Ortega, aye.
Ortega aye. Chair Siegel.
Siegel, aye.
Siegel aye. Item 7 passes.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation. That puts us on item 8, which is Vision Zero overview and quick build program update. And this is an information item. And we have Vicente Romero, SFCTA Transportation Planner, and Wen Mo, SFCTA Vision Zero Program Coordinator, available remotely to present this item.
Let me share my screen. There you go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm actually here. I'm not with Wen No. I'm here with Christy Osorio, who is a Vision Zero educator. She'll be here with me, and she will also help answer some of the questions at the end of this presentation. Thank you, members of the CAC, for inviting us to talk about this critical topic. I wanted to start this presentation acknowledging the tragic loss of the Cardoso Ramos family last week. Our agency and all of us at SFMTA is deeply committed to the hard work of ensuring all the streets in San Francisco are safe, but there is still a lot of work to do. and we are working hard to put safety at the center of all our street projects. So again, maybe I'm gonna start the presentation. So I'll give a brief overview about what is Vision Zero and what's on deck for the following months. And then I'll follow with a brief update on the speed safety cameras and another update on the Quick Build program. So as you all know, San Francisco was the second city in the US to adopt Vision Zero. It was back in March 28th of 2014, which means that tomorrow it's going to be it's the 10-year anniversary of San Francisco adopting Vision Zero as a policy. And our team is right now working on these 10-year communications. We're preparing a Vision Zero podcast. We worked on the mayor's press release for tomorrow. And then we're also working on a 10-year retrospective report that is going to be released in April. So related to these 10 years of Vision Zero, started in spring, we'll begin an outreach process to the Vision Zero community to define the next phase of street safety in San Francisco. And we'll include a mix of internal and external listening sessions, interviews, and surveys. We'll then collect all this feedback and we can share all these results. Meanwhile, we already have commitments that will carry us past 2024, as listed here in on this slide. We will install the 33 speed safety cameras at 33 locations. We will keep working on Quick Build pedestrian bicyclist improvements on the remaining 50 miles of the high injury network. We are expanding the no turn on red in parts of the city with high concentration of pedestrian activity, notably downtown, South of Market and North of Market. We'll continue implementing daylighting, including enforcing AB 413, and we will implement a series of comprehensive safety treatments in the Western Addition and the Tenderloin as a result of the $25 million that we received from the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. So 2023 saw a 33% decrease in overall traffic fatalities from 2022, a year that saw the most traffic fatalities on our streets in 2007. Compared to last year, to 2022, pedestrians experienced a 10% decrease in fatalities, and there was a 55% decrease in the number of people killed in motor vehicles. Overall, across transportation modes, pedestrians are consistently the most vulnerable road users in San Francisco and account for most fatalities in 2023, around 69% of them. So motor vehicles such as cars and trucks, here in the green color, record the second highest proportion of fatalities by mode and represented a lower proportion of fatalities in this mode than in the past years. And finally, notably, there were 0 bicycle fatalities for the first time in this record, San Francisco, in the jurisdiction of San Francisco. These next couple of slides cover high-level takeaways on the 2023 context. If you want to know more details, please check the 2023 end-of-year fatality report and the severe injury trends report that are going to be released by the Department of Public Health in the coming weeks. So in 2023, 2023 had 24% fewer traffic fatalities than in 2013, the year before Vision Zero was adopted. In 2023 had 33% fewer traffic fatalities than in 2022. We went from 39 to 26. And overall, traffic fatalities in San Francisco have been trending down since 2013, which is a different case than other peer cities in the US. As an example, 3 of the city's 4 lowest annual fatality totals occurred in the past 10 years, including the lowest total level recorded, which was 2017, with 20 fatalities. The other ones being 2018, 2023, and then 2010. And finally, comparing San Francisco to other cities in the US, San Francisco has the lowest number of fatalities per bicycle commuter and the second lowest number of pedestrian fatalities per walking commuter in the US, according to the League of American Bicyclists, with data from 2019 to 2022. Next, I'm gonna give a very brief update on the speed safety cameras on behalf of Shannon Haig, the SFMTA speed safety camera program manager who couldn't attend. So as requested, we're sharing the proposed locations of the 33 speed cameras. These locations were identified through a transparent data-driven process that was explained in detail at the SFMTA Board of Directors meeting back on March 19. This will also be presented to the Board of Supervisors in an upcoming meeting. And these 33 proposed cameras will enforce speed in front of 8 school sites, 12 parks and playgrounds, and 11 neighborhood commercial districts. All the data that we have collected as part of this screening process can be viewed on the program website at sfmta.com/speed cameras. Finally, I'm gonna give another update on the Quick Build program, also on behalf of Jennifer Wong, the SFMTA's Quick Build program manager who couldn't attend. So as you know, Quick Builds are a key feature in the 2021 Vision Zero Action Strategy. This program was formalized back in 2019 to create brand recognition for the lower cost, but it's still a substantial body of work we're doing that is in streetscape. And this program has 2 different components: the Quick Build corridors, from which we have already done 33 of them until December of 2023, and then the Quick Build toolkit or intersection improvements that I'll talk about them later. So here are a couple of corridors I'd like to highlight that have been recently implemented. So just in time for the new baseball season, the third street Quick Build project was approved this month and immediately went into construction. The new 2-way protected bikeway connection is a new route to get to the ballpark and onto Townsend Street. It's worth mentioning that it's the first sidewalk level bikeway in San Francisco. There is actually a press event to celebrate this on this coming Friday at 11 a.m. at the Willie Mays Plaza at Oracle Park, and all are invited to join. The second is Lake Merced, which has constructed a 2-way bikeway with concrete buffers, among many other pedestrian bicycle improvements along the 2.5 miles between Skyline and John Muir Drive. There are many more corridor projects that are well underway. Lincoln is another project currently under construction, and it's about to finish construction. And a few more are preparing for construction, including Slode, Guerrero, and the recently approved 17th Street east of Potrero. These 7 that you can see here are still in the works, though a couple are dependent on public works repaving schedule, like Clarendon and Larkin. And roughly speaking, we're working at a pace of about 1 project per month. And here is a roundup of things to keep an eye out in the next few months. Lincoln, as I said, is about to finish construction. Guerrero, 3rd Street, which we have the ribbon cutting on Friday, are the ones actively under construction and almost done. The next project you can expect to be presented before the SFMTA Board of Directors for project approvals is Frida Kahlo, right by City College. And the project team is actually currently working on the designs and preparing for this construction. And a few projects that have some significant design and outreach activity this coming spring are Oak, Sutter, and Beach. For more details on the individual projects, you can check the website sfmta.com/quickbuild. And finally, the other component of the Quick Build program is the Quick Build Toolkit or intersection improvements. And upon completion of this project, every remaining intersection in the high injury network will receive core treatments, including continental crosswalks, daylighting, advanced limit lines, pedestrian head starts, and longer walk times. We will also run additional screening to identify intersections needing signal head lens upgrades, painted safety zones, and turn calming. So as you can see here, this is the progress through February of 2024. There is a total of 925 intersections that we're gonna do all these safety improvements. About 21% of those intersections have already been assessed and completed all the work that it was needed to be done. 12% of them, around 113 intersections, have already been assessed, and work orders are now being processed and sent to the shops to be built and completed. And then 67% of those intersections still need to be assessed and completed throughout this year of 2024. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. Christiana, we're here to.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Are there any member bars?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have several questions, and I realize it's quite late, so I will do my best to be as concise as possible. So let me first share some comments and feedback, and then I will ask 2 questions. So comments. I have to admit that I am frustrated with the fact that we didn't just say at the top that we did not achieve our Vision Zero goals. That I appreciate the substance of the material, and I do want to thank staff for the thoroughness and the commitment to these initiatives. But we actually had a goal for Vision Zero, which was to achieve 0 traffic fatalities by 2024. We did not achieve that. I do believe that it is a miss that is not stated in the presentation. My second bit of feedback is that on slide 5, if we're talking about a downward trend, I'd like to see the trend lines. If there is a downward trend, I'm struggling. The stats on that seem like that's a pretty small trend. So if we're going to refer to trends, please, I would like to see that backed up. Then I absolutely have to take issue with slide 7. San Francisco has the lowest number of fatalities per bicycle commuter and second lowest number of pedestrian fatalities per walking commuter. That statistic may be true. Absolutely nobody uses that statistic to measure the safetiness and the comfort as just like a normal person walking around. We have very few walking commuters in San Francisco. I suspect that this is a denominator problem. I think this is very tone deaf, again, given the tragedy of West Portal last week. This is, yes, I take issue with this statistic and the inclusion of thereof. And then I would like to say that I will move into my questions now. I have a question from my own, and then a question that I communicated with Member Davidson about. So question that I have on the location of the speed safety cameras. I'm very heartened to see several of those speed safety cameras located in District 7. That's great. I'm surprised with not seeing one on Junipero Serra, Portola, or 19th Avenue. I'm wondering if you could speak to whether or not those locations were considered.
Yeah, so I wasn't part of the group that decided the locations. All I can say is that we have used all the data we have in terms of crashes and injuries, and those having the locations that we're able to locate the cameras. I don't know the details of the different locations that were chosen, or the ones that were like out of the list, because we have a limit of 33 cameras in the city, and we wanted all of them to be located on the high injury network and spread out in all the different districts and neighborhoods of San Francisco. So with that limitance, we were able to locate these to find these 33 locations. But I don't know the details on other possible locations.
Okay, understood.
And then my last question that I'm also asking on behalf of Member Davidson, there, as I recall, there's also a commitment to finish the work on the high injury network, all of the quick build projects, as well as the intersections. However, it looks like there are, what, 2/3 of the intersections yet to do, and 50 miles, oh, maybe I didn't get that right. No, I think that's right. 50 miles outstanding of the high injury network. So I would just like to understand, what is the plan to achieve that by the end of this year?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So as I said before, the Quick Build program, and one of the commitments that we actually set on the 2021 action strategy was to cover the whole high injury network with safety improvements. And so there are those two components that are gonna fulfill that goal of, first, the corridor Quick Build project, and then for the areas or the miles where we are not gonna do or we're not doing a Quick Build corridor, we're fixing, or we're working on the intersection at the intersection level. And actually, like, if you place both maps on top of the other, there, like, the whole high injury network, it's gonna be improved with these safety improvements, either in corridor or in at the intersection level. And our plan is to finish or to do all of them by the end of 2024. Like, right now, we are at the end of March, and we have already assessed and completed, and work orders are already been developed for 1/3 of those intersections. If you check the graph, it was 21% plus 12%, and in these 2 or 3 months of 2024. So our plan is to get to those 925 intersections by the end of 2024.
Thank you for your response. Then I'll just offer this comment. It does seem, and I'm trying to do the math off it like very quickly, but it does seem like we would have to increase the rate quite a bit to hit that. So I'm just, at any rate, I'd love to understand how we're going to increase the rate of moving through the quick builds and the intersection improvements, but maybe I'm just not seeing it. But thank you for your responses. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Member Milford Rosales.
Thank you. I wanted to start by saying thank you for the work on 3rd Street on that quick build. I brought up earlier, emailing internally, that it seemed that the 3rd Street quick build previously had left a big gap that would help connect the two sides of Mission Bay in that part of Soma. And especially with the new school going in, that will greatly improve the ability of people to get around safely by bike in that area. I'm curious why there have not been, I guess I would like to know, what is it that allowed that area to get such a good treatment with the fully protected lane, with the sidewalk level area, that didn't apply to the rest of 3rd Street or to other quick builds in the area? Are there special circumstances that are on behalf of, like, the efforts that could go high on like the engineering side, or is this more tied to local businesses? Because that has been a very transformative, it seems like it will be a very transformative project compared to many of the other quick builds that have gone through that part of town.
I'm not part of that project, so I don't have an answer for that question. I can definitely take notes and consult later with the engineers of that project and can get back to you unless my colleague Christy has any more details about that.
Hi, everyone. Christy Osorio, Vision Zero Education Lead. Just echoing Vicente in that we're not on the project teams for that project, but happy to find the answer and return back to the CIC through email.
Yeah.
If I could follow up as well, sorry, let me scroll back up here real quick. So we have the quick build toolkit plan from 2021 that we've been working through. But we adopted the Vision Zero policies in 2014. Are there other projects that have been, or projects or infrastructure things that have gone on since before this quick build toolkit? Or did it take the first 6 years to really develop the approach? 7 years to develop the approach that we've used since then?
I mean, obviously, we've been implementing all types of all sorts of safety improvements as even before 2014. Signals upgrades or master arm painted safety zones, pedestrian scrambles. A series of spot treatments citywide. I don't know, like new road diets or stop signs. So I don't know how the Quick Build program got created, but it got created in 2019 to kind of like tackle improvements at the corridor level, because we were doing until then we were doing projects, either streetscapes project or capital improvement projects, and then spot improvements in the city. And then in 2019 we created a quick build program to do faster and cheaper projects at the corridor level. And so, yeah, we've been doing, there is that we have different dashboards with all the data of all the different treatments that we've been implementing since the beginning of Vision Zero and even before. I can even put here the links later. But then, yeah, when we created the Quick Build program, we were able to do all these improvements at the corridor level. I don't know if Christy, you would like to add.
Nothing to add, just reiterating that the Quick Build project Quick Builds were adopted in 2019, which allowed us to use cheaper materials and make it more flexible for pilots. So that's sort of like where the onset of Quick Build programs started. And the development of the toolkit is a little bit more recent, just based on proven outcomes from previous Quick Build projects.
And that doesn't mean that we are still doing more, capital improvements or streetscape projects at the same time. But this is a way of addressing these safety issues in a faster way, in a cheaper way. And we, like year by year, we are honing or streamlining the process with Quick Builds. And it has allowed us to get to or to do more safety improvements faster and in a cheaper way. But again, at the same time, we're also doing more like harder or streetscapes improvements.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I just quickly add, the high entry network was also established in 2017, which also gave MTA and working with the Department of Public Health some more direction on where to target limited dollars, where the collisions and where the fatalities and severe and fatal injuries have happened. And also, so when Vision Zero started though in 2013 and in 2014, there had already been a series of safety programs. At one point, it was called a Walk First initiative. It's gone through various different iterations, but with the creation of Quick Builds in 2019, that really was a turning point for the program implementation, because it allowed for MTA to do reversible or near-term low-cost improvements quickly that could be then studied in a pilot manner and then either added on to with more intensive engineering approaches or tweaked at the margin if it is being successful. And we are funding on an annual basis the Safe Streets Evaluation Report, which does do the evaluations of both corridors. And I would imagine it will now start including these targeted intersections. MTA had made a commitment in the 2021 action strategy to do quick builds on the entire high entry network.
Yeah.
And so once they had completed a series of corridors, they conducted a study that Fair and Peers did a couple of months ago that said, in order to touch the whole high entry network by the end of 2024, these are the types of improvements. This is the toolkit that we recommend that you do with these intersections. So I just wanted to add a little bit of context. The safety programs have been in place for many years, but the focus has been organized around Vision Zero in a very meaningful way since 2014.
Yeah, thank you.
Member Ford.
Hi. So thanks for the presentation. Echoing some of the comments from member bars of, it's a little bit, I go to weekly business reviews, they call it the greenies, when everything looks green on your KPIs, and then the VP inevitably is like, are you pushing yourself hard enough? Are you reaching far enough and going as fast as you can? So like, in your professional opinion, we have a lot of people who've worked on Vision Zero here. What would it take to move faster and get to actual zero as a city? Like, what do you actually need to make this goal a thing? Because if we look at slide 5, like, it's not yet there.
I don't know if you, Christy, you want to help here.
Yeah, I'm happy to step in. Thanks. I think our director said it yesterday at the TA board. There is certain funding that we need and capacity that we need to get there. I think that, frankly, Vicente and I aren't the program managers for Vision Zero. We aren't the DOT. We don't necessarily have like the authority to say like what are the things that are going to make us go faster. I think that the best thing for us to do to respond responsibly to that question is to have the Vision Zero program managers and our DOT get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Like almost to the level of specificity of like, it's this much money or it's this many people. And I'm really just kind of putting on the hat of my boss who, that's what I get like every other week. Like how much money and how many people do you need to get the goal accomplished? And so I'm just asking the same question to the program managers or MTA.
Yeah, and in reality, there is so many other things that, we would like to do, but we cannot do. The speed cameras, it's only now that we've been fighting for them for like almost 10 years or 10 years. And it's only now, that we're able to have a pilot, 5-year pilot. Only, it's not even, just the end. There are so many things, the size of cars that are increasing, SUVs, that we don't have power over that. We need to increase density in the city. We need, there are so many like different policies that would also help, get us to zero, but we cannot, or we don't have the power, like to do that. We are, with the people we have, with the funding we have, we're doing it, as much as we can. We would love, like changing, like streetscapes, like capital improvements in every street, but like it takes a lot of funding, to adapt the city to the needs of that we have right now. But as Christy said, it would be better, for the program manager, the Vision Zero program manager, to answer that question.
Through the chair, we can also provide the timestamp on the video from the board meeting when Director Tumlin spoke. He also, building on what Vicente just said, spoke to needing to work with other departments, like the fire department, the police department, and so forth. Mentioned things like, well, anyway, I'll just stop there. So there is a big, complicated answer to that.
Member Margarita?
Yeah, thank you, Vicente and Christy, for the presentation. I actually wish I would have seen it first before having the other presentations and action items, because it actually had my brain going, but I don't want to take too long. I actually appreciated even the graph of unfortunately listing the tragic accidents. And we started thinking, okay, well, in 2023, there was 0 people who passed away while biking. And I started thinking, okay, what was implemented to ensure that that didn't happen anymore, right? In 2023, and hopefully in 2024, there will be, from now on, 0 of any pedestrians, people riding on bikes, etc., and in vehicles. But there's outside circumstances, right, that cause that. And so what would help me for this graph, or an additional graph, if it's possible for a Vision Zero to, for example, link, okay, this accident happened 2 weeks ago due to the person being under the influence of alcohol and other drugs, or being on their cell phone, or, whatever A and B reason, to also list that, to help our members here on the board understand the outside circumstances, in combination with what Vision Zero is already implementing, because unfortunately there's outside circumstances that affect, unfortunately, these deaths, right? So thank you, that's all.
Thank you for that question. I think my colleague Christy, she put on the chat, we have a dashboard where we created this dashboard, I think back in 2022, where we have all the different fatalities, and it's a table where it describes, the conditions of the road when that happened, and then all the different changes that SFCTA is proposing or recommending after that crash. So all the details of the different crashes are in that table. We also have a map with all the different points where fatalities have happened. But in that map, we don't have all the different details of each crash. It's only a series of points in the map, but both of them complement each other, and they're public. It's on our website, visionzerosf.org. And so, yeah, they can be consulted. We publish all the information 14 days after a crash happened, when we know all the different factors and all the different details to add to the table.
Thank you.
Are there any other?
If I could just add, we can also share, there was a presentation from the Department of Public Health on the 2023 fatality report. I know Vicente was talking about the real-time dashboard information, which is an excellent resource. And then we can also share the link to the presentation from the MTA board Vision Zero subcommittee at the end of February when it was presented.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, related to that, yeah, so the Department of Public Health, they're right now working on it, and they should be out soon. The report on fatalities, 2023 fatalities, and then the report on injuries. And so there, we're gonna have all details and of fatalities and injuries of last year and previous years. So that's coming up in the following weeks. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation and your work on this issue. I do have a question and some feedback. I recognize that it's late. I apologize, but this is obviously a really important topic. When actually Member Bars sort of took the words out of my mouth on my first question, but I will phrase it in the form of a question. When you say that traffic fatalities have generally been trending down, I'm not really seeing that in the data that you shared. I also looked at the much longer presentation from the Vision Zero subcommittee meeting that includes a lot more data as well. And I just am not sure where the statement that they're generally coming down, what numbers that's based on. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Sure. Maybe I can share one last slide. This again, this information is gonna be in the 10-year retrospective. And so again, I still don't know the details. This was prepared by our team. And so if you can see here, these are fatalities or fatal collisions from the 1990s. And so you can see the line was going down, and then that stagnation leads to Vision Zero in 2014. And so the goal, obviously, it's to get to zero. But what we're seeing from 2014 to today, it's like in average, it's going down, not as fast as we would like for it to happen. But as I was mentioning before, three of the lowest years with the lowest fatalities happened in these 10 years of Vision Zero. The last one, as you can see in the graph, it was in 2010. That's the lowest that we had. 2017, it was 20 fatalities. And then those 3 other years that I was mentioning. But again, this graph, I'm presenting it here for the first time, but it's gonna be in that retrospective, 10-year retrospective. Again, the facts are showing that fatalities are trending down, not as fast as we would like to, but the facts are showing that it's trending down. Again, very, very low. The difference was 0.7 fatalities in the other that I share at the beginning here. From where is it? Oh my God. Here, from an average of 29.5 to 28.8. It's very low, but that is where that statement is originated, using the combination of these two different graphs. But yeah, we'll share more information in that 10-year retrospective that is going to be released in April.
Great, thank you. That's actually really helpful.
Yeah.
It seems like we have stopped that really steep increase, but we're not necessarily bringing things down appreciably yet. I have some feedback just for the Vision Zero program overall, acknowledging that you two might not necessarily be able to implement it, but I also, I think, would maybe formally request that Director Tumlin or the program coordinator for the Vision Zero program come give a presentation to us at some point so that we may ask them directly about this. But I am also sort of disappointed by the positive framing and dropping the 2024 language from the presentation. I am very supportive of the quick builds planned on the high energy network and the no turn on red implementations and daylighting. But I think what I'm seeing from these numbers is that the spot fixes are not getting us to Vision Zero fast enough, if at all. Maybe it has stopped the extreme increase. And so just to sort of build on some themes from the earlier discussion on the I-280 study, I would encourage SFCTA and the Vision Zero program to think bigger. One thing that I think stands out to me is that since adopting Vision Zero, my understanding is that automobile mode share has actually increased and transit mode share has decreased, which is, I think, probably directly related to the fact that we haven't moved the needle so much on this. I would encourage considering things like closing streets to automobile traffic around major transit hubs where there are going to be a lot of conflicts between pedestrians and cars, and just a lot of people getting on and off transit vehicles. Yeah, just maybe like any street that has transit running on it that has multiple lanes of car traffic should be reduced to just one lane of car traffic. Maybe streets with transit service should be shut down to automobile traffic. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're doing enough to encourage people to shift away from automobiles. And yeah, the more people are in cars, the more likely it is that someone will drive drunk or just like have a medical problem and suddenly accelerate, or just, yeah, and anything that we can do to get people out of their cars. I would really like to see bolder action on the bigger picture, in addition to the very much needed spot fixes. So yeah, thank you for your work on this. Appreciate it, and hope to have future opportunities to. Yeah, Member Margarita.
Sorry, just one additional last point. If you can also just, with what our chair just stated, just keep in mind people with disability needs. So you're going to shut down certain streets, just think about people with disabilities who need close because they're in a wheelchair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just to keep that population in mind. Thank you.
Absolutely. If there are no additional comments or questions from members, we can take public comment in the room on this item.
Thank you, Edward Mason. We're attempting engineering solutions, modify a deficient cultural behavior lacking in safety and and personal responsibility and respect for others. I've had an incident where over the last couple of weeks, I've been in the intersection, in the crosswalk, starting my walk across the street, and I've had automobiles stop and then accelerate in front of me to proceed. The unique thing was, these were all Teslas that were doing it. So I don't know if we can come to any conclusion on that about the type of people, but nobody really cares. It's me first, I want to go. So we really have a lack of cultural responsibility that we have to address. And regarding the cameras, the Vision Zero cameras, they're only going to issue a $50 civil citation or fee to the person. It's not going to be a point on their record or anything, because it's just going to go to the driver of the owner of the automobile who may not be driving it. So it's no point on the driving record. And in summary, you know, Vision Zero is a zero, and we're trying to do all these engineering things, but really it boils down to individual personal responsibility, and it's totally lacking in this society. We see it, I see it every day around. So good luck on it. We're going to spend all this money when it could be avoided, because if people did what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't be having this problem. And I've seen an automobile, a souped up BMW small one, and on the back window in the graffiti font, it said, "Live fast." Didn't say drive safely, be cautious, or anything else. It said live fast. And that is representative of what I think we are up against, is a cultural bias of living fast and really don't care about anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any remote public comment on this item?
Yeah, there is one remote public comment. Roland, go ahead and start. Are you still there?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to unmute myself, so I need to wait for you. So I was really upset when I heard about this. And before I go there, I'm going to take you back to the Wednesday, September 6, 2023 CAC meeting minutes. Item number 7, adopt a motion support to adopt the Treasure Island Supplemental Transportation Study. During public comment, Edward Mason requested new bus shelters be placed so that they protect waiting passengers from the prevailing wind. Roland LeBrun added that shelters should be placed to protect waiting passengers from speeding vehicles by placing them near barriers such as trees or lighting poles. The reason that made that comment, we had an accident in San Jose, 2 elderly couples, 80 years old, got wiped out. Then there was another one. It was a chase. It was a sheriff who was chasing a stolen car. The stolen car lost control and did exactly what happened in San Francisco. It got across to the other side of the street and wiped out everybody that's waiting in the bus stop. So I was really disappointed when I heard Director Tomlin's comment, and I wanted to address the board, but I was driving. I was on my way to Caltrain. And the question is, what are Muni's plans? Are you going to be replacing this bus shelter in the exact same position with the same shelter, or do something different? So in closing, what I would like to do is to encourage all of you to look at every bus shelter in the city through a different lens and think, what could you do better here? You know, if a car or heaven forbid, a Muni bus, you know, comes along and tries to wipe everything off. It's got to be bollards, you know, concrete barriers, or I mean, just naming, think about it. You still got to be able people to get on and off buses, but we've got to make shelters safer. Thank you.
Thank you.
At the end of public comment?
I believe so.
Great. Then public comment on that item is closed. Thank you so much for the presentation. That puts us on item 9, which is the state and federal legislation update, and this is an information item.
Good evening, Chair Siegel and CAC members. My name is Martin Reyes. I'm a Principal Transportation Planner for Government Affairs here. Before we begin, I know that hour is getting late, so I did want to present an option to you all. Tonight's item for SB 1031 is just an information item, so I would just be providing a presentation on this bill, which is a bill from Senator Scott Wiener and Senator Wahab. We are also planning on bringing potentially a support position to our Board of Commissioners next month, which means that we could also bring back this item to the next CAC meeting in April. So you have two options. We can either go ahead with tonight's presentation. I'm prepared to give it. But if you would like to end the meeting, I know it's getting late, we can also push this to next month. And there'd be a CAC meeting right after the Board of Commissioners meeting. So I'll leave it up to you to pick an option.
I would personally be okay with deferring it. Would anyone specifically like to hear the presentation tonight? I'm totally happy to entertain that. No?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, okay,
Let's
great.
defer. Let's defer. Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanted to thank you for
Oh,
staying.
yes,
so long.
thank you.
Thank you
for offering that.
But
Yeah.
No problem.
Yes, we really do appreciate you being here so late.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're on the-
All right, so then we will hear that item as part of our next meeting. Great, thank you so much. That puts us on item 10, which is the introduction of new business, and this is an information item. Do any CAC members have any new business? Not seeing anything from members. In that case, I think we can also skip public comment on that item. So then that puts us on item 11, which is general public comment. This is general public comment on items under the Transportation Authority CAC's purview that are not otherwise agendized at this meeting. Is there anyone in the hearing room wishing to give public comment?
Thank you. Last night, after 5:30 or so in the evening at 24th and Dolores, westbound, going up the hill, there was a corporate commuter bus, an 80-passenger over-the-highway bus that transmission apparently failed. And so it was stuck there, okay? And until a big rig tow truck came, which was, I went there back at 7:30 and it was still there. It delayed Muni, delayed the corporate commuter buses, impacted all the traffic in the area, the pedestrians and everything else. Even a Muni supervisor had to come out and extract one of the Muni buses that was trying to get around it in the opposite lane. These buses are designed for freeway use, and we're putting them into a topography of going up and down hills, and it's no wonder. This is the second time that this happened in the last 2 weeks or so. And I've got multiple versions in the past 10 years that I've been monitoring it where the same incident has occurred. You had the Muni reroute. I asked the driver, I said, what's your ridership here? He said, well, maybe we get 20 people to ride it. And I said, well, what about Mondays and Fridays? Oh, nah, just about nobody rides it on Mondays and Fridays, but they still operate it. This whole program was based on the fact that you would be reducing pollution. And it was run through this organization on a model that said, well, if everybody drove, we'd save this much pollution because people are taking the bus. Well, the fact is, there's very few people on the buses now. So these buses are basically running empty. So they are a net generator of pollution. So, you know, this whole thing needs to be, and it's just satisfying a culture of convenience when Caltrain is running at 1/3 of the capacity. My time is up and I'll defer to that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any remote public comment?
Brittany, can you take down the slide? Yes, one remote public comment. Roland, go ahead. You unmute yourself, Roland.
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. So what I would like to do is very briefly elaborate on a comment that Chair Segal made earlier, that we need to seriously start considering closing off streets in the area of the major transportation hubs. And you all know about the tragedy that happened at Fort and King, about this baby in the stroller that, you know, got wiped out. But you may not recall the time I was at Panera and I observed a blind person trying to transfer from Caltrain to Muni. And he basically went right past the Muni platform and he finished on the other side of King Street and he had no idea what to do. And I basically had to go and rescue him. Now that leads me to the design of the DTS, which is an absolute disaster. This Townsend station is just asking for more people trying to use transit getting killed while shifting between modes. And this is why, actually 13 years ago, when I designed what then subsequently became the Pennsylvania Avenue extension, I moved that station to 7th Street. Because that station is going to have high-speed rail, it's going to have Caltrain, it's going to have Muni, and it's going to have buses. And we need to seriously consider closing off 7th Street between Berry and King, or at least, you know, the section that, you know, goes across the creek. If we do that, we will achieve vision zero in that area when people try to motive between Caltrain and Muni or, you know, active transportation or whatever. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you for your comment. That conclude public comment.
Yes, it does.
Great. That's on item 12, which is adjournment. Thank you all. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for staying so late.